So the curious case of Derek Leachman, continues. He's lying. He's perjuring himself. He perjured himself about 6 times. He got suspended for it. A lot of these police officers have a rap sheet, just real long, extensive, long history. We had one gentleman here who had said, um, let's see, he had a long ass rap sheet. Okay, so let's see, Joe Burden. This is LMPD officer Joe Burden arrests a woman and says, "If you show me your vagina, I'll let you go." So that's what the police are doing. Even off duty, they're saying I'm the cop and we're allowed to beat you up, and they're getting away with this shit. So let's see. They were being disciplined internally, so none of them are ever criminally charged, and that's such bullshit. Now, I want transparency, okay, in my government organizations. The NSA is making us, the people, be transparent, and they're covering the secrets of the government when it should be in a free society be the exact opposite. The government should be transparent, and we should have our privacy. We're Americans. We're the American people, and we should have. I mean, Chief Justice Brandeis come right out of here in Louisville, Kentucky. Chief Justice Brandeis is all about privacy. He says that there's several amendments when they work in tandem together guarantees there's no privacy in the Constitution. But when you say unreasonable search and seizures, having to get a warrant before you go into somebody's house to be protected in your papers and your effects, there's implied privacy, and that's what Chief Justice Brandeis is known for. It comes straight out of Louisville, right? So that's a good thing. We got Chief Justice Brandeis. He came out of Louisville, and he was for privacy. Edward Snowden says, "Merry Christmas. You guys are all fucked. You guys are all bitches of the fucking government." And so Officer Kevin Talby, for example, given false testimony, and then he's suspended for 30 days. Lengthy disciplinary record. Oh yeah, so Charles Moore, they weren't allowed to put any of Charles Moore's lengthy disciplinary record, including several instances of dishonesty, in order to impeach his testimony in a drug trial. So he's got 800 pages. Charles Moore's got 800 pages about internal documents about the shit that he's done. He's been suspended from the force 7 times, reprimanded another 8 occasions, and subject to 4 criminal investigations. That's Officer Charles Moore. So what did Charles Moore, how does a person like Charles Moore stay on the force? How does he carry a gun and continue to hurt and oppress people? Derek Leachman, this man's at a McDonald's, and in last February, so February of 2012, he's at McDonald's at 2nd and Broadway, and according to a warrant in a district court, Officer Leachman became belligerent and began cursing at a customer who appeared to be mentally handicapped. So Derek Leachman is yelling at a mentally handicapped person. 2 women got involved, asking him to stop cussing because there are children present, and then that's when things got really heated. The warrant says that then Officer Derek Leachman called the woman a fat bitch. Right, so you got the police that's going around calling, just McDonald's workers or maybe customers a fat bitch, and the confrontation eventually escalated out to the parking lot, and that's when Officer Derek Leachman pulled his gun out on the women, and Officer Derek Leachman waved the gun at the women and said, "What are you bitches going to do now? Back the fuck up. What are you bitches going to do now? Back the fuck up." So he's got a gun right at the women, and he's like, "What are y'all going to do now? What you going to do now?" This is the same man that had murdered, a man at Chickasaw Park, along with his other buddies, and that's, is it a surprise that a murderer will keep on, committing crimes? He got away with murder, so he probably has like sort of God complex, like he can get away with anything. Another man, Michael Von Allman, in 1982 was arrested and charged with rape and related crimes, and then he served 11 years in prison, was released on parole. So he got out on parole. Nobody saved his ass. He served his entire fucking sentence, right? Rape, and they said he was a rapist, and they said some other crimes. So in 2010, the courts overruled the conviction. When he finally got out in 93, he fought it, and then eventually, he was able to get the conviction overruled. In 2011, Van Allman sued the police department over the case, claiming misconduct had led to his false conviction. Louisville Metro police officer involved with dozens of pending criminal cases is himself under investigation for allegedly falsifying his timesheet, claiming overtime he may not have worked, according to court records filed this week. The investigation of Officer Chris Thurman has put on hold many of his criminal cases, prompting prosecutors to notify defense attorneys about the officer's situation because it could affect his credibility at trial. not been told about the issues involved in Thurman. The defense attorneys haven't been told, who's been on paid administrative duty since October 11th, so they get a nice little paid vacation. Jefferson County Attorney's Office has filed information about Thurman in a DUI case this week in response to a request last week by defense attorney Rob Eggert, who believed Thurman had already been disciplined. Some defense attorneys said they'd been notified by prosecutors about Thurman, while others said they hadn't been told. I didn't know anything about Thurman, said defense attorney Jennifer Ward, who is handling a murder case in which Thurman is the lead investigator. The prosecutors have turned it over to when they become aware of it. When they become aware of it, they're not forthcoming with information that, it implicates one of their own. Commonwealth's attorney Thomas Wine, so I guess that's who our Commonwealth attorney is right now, said the police have asked to speak with him about Thurman, but his office has not been officially notified about the details of the investigation. Regardless, Commonwealth's attorney Thomas Wine said case law requires prosecutors to disclose the information in a timely manner prior to trial so it can be used at trial, but not as soon as they hear there may be an internal investigation. Local defense attorney Brian Butler said Wine is technically correct, but as a practical matter, they should disclose it when they know. He said the information could affect how the defendant reviews potential plea bargains and assess how strong the case is, whether to take the trial, according to Butler. But Wine said rules of law and Supreme Court opinions clearly do not require such information to be turned over before the plea agreements, pointing out someone who pleads guilty acknowledges they give up the right to confront the witness. It's a right it's a risk they take. Dan Goyette, head of the Louisville Public Defender's Office, said prosecutors have an ethical duty to disclose information about the officer in a case when it becomes known to them. Any suggestion that there's no time limit for disclosure as long as it is produced prior to trial is incorrect. Thurman, a drug recognition expert and DUI instructor, has dozens of pending cases in which he is the lead officer, including at least 3 cases involving charges of manslaughter and murder, including second-degree manslaughter case of Christopher Purcell, Jefferson County Public Schools teacher, charged in August 2012 wreck in which Tracy Blevins, a passenger on a motorcycle, was killed. Butler said he recently settled a case in which Thurman was the lead officer and the county attorneys told him about the police investigation. Bill Patterson, a spokesman for the county attorney's office, said none of the cases Thurman is involved with have gone to trial since he's been under investigation. Patterson said the county's attorney office was told by police on October 25th about Thurman and prosecutors, but had been notifying defense attorneys. So, right, there's just some bullshit. Prosecutor and defense attorney weigh on wrongfully convicted man's case, posted by Charles Gazaway. 14 years ago, after his conviction, Louisville man has a clean criminal record, but it could be a very different outcome. Tuesday, Jefferson Circuit Court judge overturned Edwin Chandler's conviction. So here's another person wrongfully convicted. You had Edwin Chandler, Kerry Porter, William Gregory, Susan King. They have, why does LMPD just keep on sending so many innocent people into prison? Why do they keep on doing this? They're out of control. They're absolutely out of control. They're doing whatever they want to do, and nobody seems to be stopping them from doing what they're doing. 14 years, right, after his conviction, they overturned overturned the conviction, but Wave 3 found that he was the only man wrongfully convicted by the same prosecutor. When Chandler went to trial in 1995, Steve Schroering was assistant Commonwealth's attorney and lead prosecutor in the case. Circumstantial evidence was strong, and there's admission on the part of Mr. Chandler he had been involved, Schroering said, so on a personal level I was certainly comfortable going forward with the prosecution. But new evidence, including an unmatched fingerprint on a beer bottle, cleared Chandler of the crime Tuesday, 16 years later. I was very surprised when I heard the news that new evidence had been turned up in the case that exonerated him. One of the plots in the Chandler case was that despite maintaining his innocence, he did confess while in police custody. That confession is something that has since come under scrutiny. So what are the cops doing? They're beating up innocent people and they're forcing them to fucking confess to fucking shit they didn't even fucking do. Like, it's fucking bullshit how they do. They just fucking yell at the motherfucker, and then, like, Chris Rock is like, damn, you have a person thinking they stole their own car. You know, you better do as I say, you better do as I say. Or should I do as you say, or should I tell you the truth? Which one you want? You want me to make you feel better that you think you got a bad man? Or, you know, you just want to fucking push a good man to fucking admit to some crazy shit you're saying so you can fuck him up? Generally, you don't have somebody confess to a horrible crime when they didn't do it, says Schroering. He also said the suspect recanted confession isn't unusual in this particular case. I didn't and don't have any reason to believe the police acted improperly. Edwin Chandler's defense attorney, Don Major, isn't so sure. We're not left with much in the way of conclusions as to why a person would give that statement other than it was under an impermissible amount of pressure. Impermissible amount of pressure. You omit it, you omit it, you omit it, you're fine. I did it. Now will you shut the fuck up? You know, they could just do that in, 24 hours. You did it, 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 you did it. And only if you're so strong and you know who you are and you say no, 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 and you never surrender, right? If you're a Jean-Jacques Rousseau child who's strong, then you know who you are and you know that you're innocent, then you wouldn't concede. But the American education system teaches obedience. So when a cop is telling you did it, 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 you did it. If it was a teacher saying you did it, you have to just submit, right? We're not left with much in the way of conclusions as to why a person would give that statement other than it was an impermissible amount of pressure. Majors say he always felt the guilty verdict on a manslaughter charge for such a violent crime was strange. Although Chandler spent 9 years in prison as an innocent man, he could have faced a much worse fate. Thank God the death penalty was not a result of the trial, because it might have been too late to reverse and apologize had the death penalty been imposed in the case. They almost murdered Edward Chandler over some bullshit, They would have murdered an innocent man, which is no big fucking surprise to the LMPD. That's what they do. They throw innocent people in jail, and hell, if they would have murdered him, then he wouldn't have had his witness testimony. He wouldn't have had him to say that it was wrong. It's easy just to get rid of all the traces of evidence. We're not left weighing much of the conclusions. That's why I'd give a statement under there was under an impermissible amount of pressure. So, Major told Wave 3 hopes that the case spurs lawmakers and legal experts to take a closer look at the death penalty. Legislation dictates how police interrogations are conducted. $8.5 million for 9 years. The Louisville man never should have been spent behind bars. That's a settlement reached between the city and the man convicted, then exonerated for murder. It's the largest wrongful conviction settlement in Louisville in years. So Edwin Chamber got $8.5 million. You had William Gregory get $4.6 million. You had that boy in Grant County who got $1.4 million for getting raped. So you have innocent people that's in jail being exonerated getting these hefty $8.5 million for 9 years in jail. William Gregory, I don't even know how long he was in there. He got $4.6 million. You got that one boy that got raped in prison, and he got $1.4 million in Grant County about 10 years ago. And then you have the Michael Newby case, who is a young black man slain and murdered, like a dog on the street, and they award his mother $250,000. That's what he gets, $250,000 for his life completely being ended. He wasn't, at the very least, Edwin Chandler and William Gregory, they get to continue to live their lives. That 18-year-old that got raped, they get to continue to live their life, and they got a chunk of change to be able to spend their money on. Michael Newby's family should be taken care of. Michael Newby's family should be taken care of for life because they took her son away from him. What price would you put on your children? If you're a police officer and one of your kids are murdered, would you just say $250,000 just to get you to walk away and say, who gives a shit? Is that fair? What's good for the goose, good for the gander. Reverse the roles. If it's fair for one, then it'd be fair for the other. And it's not fair for Michael Newby's family, and it wouldn't be fair for a police officer's family either if their kid was, unnecessarily murdered. $250,000 that's way too low. That just shows how little they give a shit about life here in Louisville. The jury acquits Corridor of all charges, and he will fight to get his job back. Matthew Corridor, a former Louisville Metro police officer, was acquitted yesterday of all charges from an incident in which he drew his weapon, handcuffed somebody, tried to repossess his sport utility vehicle in 2002. After the verdict was read, Corridor slumped forward, hanging his head and pounded a fist on the table. They hugged one another. The Jefferson Circuit Court jury deliberated less than 4 hours before finding Corridor, who is not guilty of tampering with the witness, wanton endangerment in the October 8, 2002 incident. Had he been convicted, Corridor could have been sentenced to as many as 15 years in jail. Now Corridor is a city officer for more than 11 years to try to get his job back. He's thrilled to death. So Metro Police Chief Robert White fired Corridor in May 2003. After an internal investigation into why Corridor handcuffed a man while Corridor's vehicle was being repossessed by Bluegrass Recovery and Towing. So somebody else is repossessing his vehicle, and he's handcuffing people, just to be handcuffing them. Corridor said he arrested the man for disorderly conduct, but subsequently made a deal with a woman at the towing company to release the man if she released his vehicle, White wrote in a termination letter. In closing arguments yesterday, Kamenis denied any such deal, telling juries that Corridor looked out a window that night and saw people trying to take his vehicle. So this is a one-time. I don't actually know. Corder was accused twice of using excessive violence, of excessive force. So this is another time. So Corder's coming up again, all right? And they're saying that he did some other fucked up shit. So maybe he was right, maybe he was wrong in this incident, but he was one of the people that was part of Adrian Reynolds, who was arrested in 1998. Adrian Reynolds was the black man who goes to jail for domestic violence for supposedly beating up his girlfriend, and they stomp his head in the concrete and they murder him. And then his family got $650,000. So they paid it out with that. And Corridor was somebody who did that. He come across Reynolds, who fit the description of the man. Salt, well, more coming up.